My brother's lies stripped me of my career, my freedom, and my children. Now, he's lauded as their savior, but he severely underestimated me. I came home from my daughter's dance recital to find my bedroom door ajar. Grandma's entire jewelry collection, her wedding pearls, Grandpa's military ring, totaling about $18,000, was gone. I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. Earlier that morning, my brother Logan, who I'd describe as a 30-year-old man-child, had shown up for Sunday brunch. He was unemployed, spending his days badgering our parents for money, a complete deadbeat. So, standing there, staring at the empty safe, I knew exactly who was responsible. An hour later, I confronted Logan at his apartment. He was playing wearing Grandpa's ring like a trophy. Insurance will cover it. He grinned when I demanded my belongings back. Besides, what's some old jewelry compared to your baby brother's life? I tried to explain that Grandma specifically wanted the pearls passed to the oldest granddaughter, but he just shrugged. You can buy new ones with all your fancy nursing money. The reek of pot in his room made me nauseous, so I left for my parents' house. The moment my dad opened the front door, he punched a hole in the drywall. Logan already told us what happened. How dare you threaten him during his recovery? My mom was even angrier, calling me callous for kicking Logan while he was down. They demanded an apology. That's when an idea hit me. The best revenge is served with a smile. I spent the next 2 weeks scouring every pawn shop within a 50-mile radius. Some of Grandma's pieces were already sold, but I tracked down the buyers via social media, knocked on their doors, and offered triple what they'd paid. I drained $18,000 from my retirement savings, convinced my plan would be worth it. Our annual family dinner happened 2 weeks later. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and other relatives crammed into my parents' home. I waited until everyone was seated before tapping my fork on a champagne glass. Logan, I announced, ensuring every family member could hear. Since you accidentally stole all of Grandma's jewelry from my safe and pawned it, I decided to get it all back, just for you. Here's everything, professionally cleaned and restored. The silence was deafening. Logan's face cycled from white to deep red, but he couldn't erupt. Not with Aunt Diane sharply asking why I had to rescue family heirlooms from pawn shops, and Uncle Rob muttering about addiction and thievery. Life felt sweet, but on the way home, I had a realization. My pettiness shouldn't get in the way of being a good sister. So, the next morning, driven by guilt, I drove him to the state's top rehab facility, paying $30,000 for a 90-day program that included equine therapy, private rooms, and proper medical supervision. I visited every Sunday, driving 3 hours. Each way, the counselors couldn't stop praising me, and the more praise I received, the more Logan resented me. But I still believed rehab would help him. When he was released 90 days later, he was different, but not in a good way. He'd drive by my house at odd hours. I'd catch glimpses of his car. He somehow knew my work schedule and when I picked up my daughter, but I wasn't worried. He'd never harmed my kids before, and it didn't seem likely he would now. 3 weeks later, it was time for Sophie's school spring musical. I was buckling her into her seat when spotlights and sirens erupted. 20 officers, guns drawn, hands where we can see them step away from the vehicle. Sophie started screaming. They forced me to the ground on the asphalt while my 6-year-old watched her mother, whom she believed could move mountains, face down next to the car. The drug dogs went straight to my trunk, found a hidden compartment I never knew existed, and pulled out 3 small baggies. Mummy, what's happening to Mummy? My kid screamed as gravel dug into my cheek. That's when I saw Logan, waiting in his car at the far edge of the parking lot, just watching, making sure his anonymous tip paid off exactly as planned. My hands were yanked behind my back, cold metal cutting into my wrists as the cuffs clicked. Shut. The officer's knee pressed harder into my spine, crushing me further into the asphalt. Sophie's shouts became frantic, and the words from Tomorrow, her musical solo, spilled out between sobs. Her red sequined Annie costume caught every police light, turning my child into a gleaming beacon of horror. Noah vomited. I heard him retching in the back seat, choking on his own anxiety. My 9-year-old son, who had been so excited to see his sister perform, now saw his mother face down on the pavement, surrounded by armed officers. They helped me to my feet. Through the pandemonium, I locked eyes with Logan again. He raised his phone to record everything. Then he started his car and drove off. Mission accomplished. Sophie's muffled weeping and Noah's unanswered questions filled the ride to the station. Child services met us there. 2 people with clipboards escorted my children away while I was processed. Sophie reached for me, singing broken parts of Tomorrow like a prayer. At booking, I immediately recognized the desk sergeant, Tom Morrison. He was 2 years ahead of my ex, Trent, in high school. We played football together. His expression sank when he saw me, Claire. He kept his voice low and professional, but I could see his disappointment. Your uncle's going to be heartbroken. My uncle, the sheriff, had been so proud when I became a nurse, bragging about having one good apple in the family tree. Tom examined my fingerprints with visible hesitation, speaking just loud enough for me to hear. They gave me one phone call. My parents' landline rang 4 times before switching to their ancient answering machine, with Dad's gruff voice prompting callers to leave a message. I gripped the receiver with shaking fingers. Mom, Dad, it's Claire. I've been arrested. It's not true. None of it's true. Logan planted drugs in my car. Please. I need you to get the kids from child services. Please answer. Please. The machine cut me off mid. They tossed me in a cell with 2 drunk drivers and a woman who'd hit her husband with a frying pan. When they heard my charges, possession with intent to distribute in a school zone, the atmosphere shifted. The drunk drivers scooted away. The domestic abuser scoffed. Drug dealer picking up kids at school. Real classy. I sat on the metal bench, knees drawn to my chest, replaying every moment. How long had the hidden compartment been there? When did Logan install it? During one of his drive-bys while I was at work, Sophie's principal arrived at the station 2 hours later, but he was no help. Mrs. Henderson's face was stone as she spoke with the officers, gesticulating angrily. I caught bits through the reinforced glass. Banned from school property, pending investigation, safety of other children. Even if I made bail, I couldn't pick up my own kids from school. Couldn't attend parent-teacher conferences. Sophie couldn't be in another play. My court-appointed lawyer arrived at midnight, fresh out of law school, his suit too big, his hand shakier than mine as he fumbled with his briefcase. He laid out papers, pointing to statistics that made my stomach drop. The amount they found with the hidden compartment puts you in trafficking weight. Mandatory minimums. We're talking decades, not years. His voice cracked over decades. This kid, who should be worrying about student loans, was outlining how I might not see freedom until Sophie was older than me. But I didn't know about the compartment. I didn't put anything there. He adjusted his glasses with a nervous twitch. Doesn't matter, it's your car. Possession is possession. And in a school zone, the judge won't have discretion, even if he wanted to. Arraignment happened at 3 a.m. They escorted me into a courtroom that smelled like stale coffee and misery. The gallery was mostly empty, except for the back row. Logan sat there, phone out, recording again, making sure he caught every bit of my demise. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, read the charges. Possession with intent to distribute, school, zone enhancements, child endangerment. Every word was another nail in my coffin. When my lawyer argued for bail, his arguments fell flat. Given the defendant's access to minor children and the location of the arrest, I'm denying bail. Defendant poses a risk to the community, particularly minor children. The gavel crashed down like thunder. Back at the county jail, the medical intake nurse went over her checklist, emergency contacts, medical issues, current prescriptions. When she asked who to notify about my children, I had no choice. Logan Williams. He's their uncle. She looked up, noting the irony in my voice. The same Logan Williams listed as the reporting party. I nodded. She made a note, and her demeanor softened slightly. She'd clearly seen families weaponize the system before, but simply seeing it didn't give her the power to do anything. They sent me to a cell with Tamara, a 50-something woman with a weathered face serving a 6-month sentence for making meth. She looked at me, still dressed for Sophie's performance, and shook her head. First time I nodded. What did they get you for? I told her about the hidden compartment, how I'd never seen these drugs before, how my brother had been stalking me. Tamara listened, then laughed grimly. Hidden compartment you didn't know about. Classic plant job. Your brother's either smart or had help, probably both. She described how it worked. Install the compartment while the target's away. Load. It then provide an anonymous tip about suspicious activity. Cops find the drugs, and suddenly you're staring at decades while the real perpetrator plays victim. Seen it a dozen times. Ex-husbands, business partners, family members. System doesn't care who put it there. They care who owns the car. My first video visitation came the next morning, allowing me to see my children through a screen for 15 minutes. But when the connection came on, Sophie and Noah weren't alone. My parents sat behind them. Logan hovered behind my parents, watching, making sure I saw him. Mom spoke first. Claire, honey, maybe this is for the best. Maybe jail will help you get clean. I'm not on drugs, Mum. I've never denial as part of addiction, she interrupted me. The counselors at Logan's rehab warned us about this. Logan leaned forward just enough that I could see his mouth. He said 2 words. I told you. Sophie hasn't talked since your arrest, my mother explained, only saying tomorrow on repeat. Noah started wetting the bed again. They were staying with my folks temporarily while things were sorted out. Sophie reached for the screen at the end of the call, tears streaming down her cheeks, refusing to take off her Annie costume. That afternoon, a security guard from my hospital presented a notice of suspension without pay, effective immediately. My contract's morals clause stated that any arrest for drug-related offenses would result in automatic suspension pending investigation. No paycheck, no health insurance, no way to pay for a real lawyer. I did the math on the cell wall with a pencil stub. Mortgage payment due in 2 weeks. Then the car, utilities, Sophie's dance classes, Noah's baseball league. Everything I had built crumbled as I sat in an orange jumpsuit. The nursing board will be notified within 72 hours. Standard procedure for drug-related arrests. My license would be reviewed after 10 years of schooling, clinicals, and continuing education. Even if I beat the charges, the review could take years. Years I'd be unable to work in my profession. 3 days later, Child Welfare Services arrived. A tired-looking woman with kind eyes delivered devastating news. Logan and your parents have filed for emergency custody. Given your current incarceration and the nature of the charges, the court is inclined to grant temporary custody to family members. Your brother has been especially proactive in ensuring the children's stability. Proactive, that's what they called it when someone shattered your life and then offered to pick up the pieces. He's an addict, I informed her. Check his record. Multiple arrests, failed rehabs. She flipped through her papers. Mr. Williams provided documentation of successful completion of a 90-day program. He's been clean for 4 months. Regular attendance at NA meetings, employed since when? Additionally, your parents are providing support. 2-parent household, stable income, clean background checks. I'm sorry, but from the court's perspective, she didn't need to finish. According to the court, I was a drug dealer who endangered children. Logan was a recovering addict making positive changes. The truth didn't matter. Renee, my closest friend, visited that weekend. She'd been crying. I could see it in her watery eyes and the smudged mascara she'd tried to fix in the parking lot. David says ... I can't. He doesn't want me associating with. She couldn't finish, but she handed me a folded paper. Logan is coming around asking about your computer passwords, bank accounts. I'd changed everything I could think of. The memo listed every account she'd helped me secure. Email, banking, social media, even my Netflix password. At the bottom, she wrote, he's using your kids to get people to talk. Says he needs access to help them. Don't trust anyone. The second blow came from the jail's law library computer, which I had access to for an hour. My arrest had made local news. Local nurse detained during school drug bust. The article featured my mugshot, showing empty eyes, matted hair, and the smeared remains of my performance makeup. The comment section was brutal. Parents from Sophie's school demanded I stay away from their children. People I'd treated in the hospital expressed shock and disappointment. And there, with his real name and profile picture, was Logan, praying for my sister's recovery and healing. Addiction is a disease. Our family won't give up on her. 47 likes, dozens of supportive responses. He had turned my demise into his redemption story. My public defender left the following week. I was chosen for a high-profile federal lawsuit. His replacement hadn't even reviewed my file. She called me Nicole throughout the meeting, sifting through documents with confused fury. So, you're saying someone planted these drugs? Yes, my brother. He installed a hidden compartment. Do you have proof? Receipts, video footage, witnesses? I had nothing. Just the word of a suspected drug dealer against a recovering addict who bravely stepped up to care for frightened children. Logan's CPS video interview with my children went exactly as planned. Sophie, persuaded and bewildered, told the investigator that Mummy hides things in the car. When asked what kind of things, she shut down and reverted to her tomorrow refrain. But the damage was done. Noah tried to help. I told them about Uncle Logan's night visit, coming by when I wasn't home. But the investigator focused on Sophie's comments, meticulously documenting them while dismissing Noah's as inconsistent with the timeline. I started trading commissary for legal advice from a woman serving a 5-year sentence for fraud. She'd been a paralegal before her arrest. I knew the system inside and out. Her assessment was dismal. Family court moves fast. faster than criminal court. Your brother could have permanent custody before your trial even starts. And once they have custody for 6 months, it becomes the status quo. Judges don't like disrupting the status quo. That night, I lay awake calculating the time. How long before temporary turned permanent? How long until my children forgot how it felt to have me tuck them in? How long until Logan's version of events became the truth? The answer arrived 2 weeks later when my parents visited. They brought Logan's legal documents, which he'd prepared with his new girlfriend Belle, a paralegal student. Just temporary guardianship, my mother informed me. For the children's stability, you understand. Behind her, my father stood still, his jaw set. He turned 10 in 2 weeks. When I refused to sign, his fist tightened, as if he meant to punch another wall. Be reasonable, Claire. The kids need stability. They need normal, not a mother in jail. I didn't do this. Dad, you know me. You know I would never. I thought I knew you, he interjected. But the daughter I raised wouldn't have drugs in. Her car wouldn't get arrested at her child's school. Wouldn't put her babies through this trauma. They left the papers, temporary guardianship, until the situation was settled. But I knew better. Nothing is permanent when you're fighting the system from inside a jail. That night, the local Facebook moms group started posting my mugshot. Warning, drug dealer nurse. Keep our schools safe. Protect our children. Each post another nail in my reputation's coffin. Renee texted me screenshots until her husband found out and forced her to block me. But it was Logan's words that broke me. As a recovering addict, I know how hard it is to admit you need help. I'm praying my sister finds the strength to choose recovery. Her children deserve a healthy mother. Break the cycle. Recovery is possible. 134 likes. 62 shares. My destruction had become his platform. My mortgage company sent another notice. The next morning the automated payment had failed. My accounts were frozen due to the asset investigation. Missed payment triggered acceleration clause activation. 30 days to pay in full or face foreclosure. Logan shared Instagram stories from my house that afternoon, maintaining Sissy's place for when she gets better. #FamilyHope. He was in my kitchen, using my dishes, sitting on my couch, moving his belongings in box by box as I sat in a cage. During the journey to family court, I finally grasped the full weight of my predicament. The deputies conversing in the front seat had no idea I could hear them. Sheriff's taking it hard. That's his niece, the good one, right? The nurse. Yeah, always said she was the only one who made something of herself. Now this Logan seems to be doing better, though. Saw him at the grocery store with those kids. Real sweet with them. My uncle, the sheriff, could have helped, investigated, or at least listened. But family was family, and I had become the family disgrace. A cautionary tale. The good one gone rotten. In family court, I appeared via video connection in an orange jumpsuit, handcuffed to a table, hair unwashed, no makeup, looking every bit the drug dealer they suspected I was. Logan sat in the gallery, pristine button-down shirt, hands folded, the picture of responsible rehabilitation. His lawyer, not his girlfriend but a real attorney he could afford, painted a glowing picture, a recovering addict, for months clean, working full-time, providing a stable environment for traumatized children. My parents testified on his behalf. Sophie's head teacher even wrote a letter supporting his custody petition. The judge's ruling was swift. Logan and my parents have temporary custody. If and when I am released, I will have supervised visits. Best interests of the children. I watched my brother's expression when the judge spoke. No smirking, no gloating, only calm satisfaction. He had triumphed, not through violence or intimidation, but through patience and forethought. He had turned my own goodness against me, my determination to help him recover, my trust that he'd never harm my children, my conviction that family mattered. As they escorted me back to my cell, I understood the truth. Logan hadn't just stolen my grandmother's valuables, he had stolen my entire life. Everyone was congratulating him for doing it so precisely. The system had worked exactly as he expected. Good sister with no record versus recovering addict making positive changes. The story wrote itself. All he had to do was reverse our roles, and I was now the antagonist in my own story. That night, Tamara found me sobbing on my bunk. She didn't offer comfort. Jail doesn't work that way. But she did offer the truth. First rule of frame jobs, she explained. The best ones make the victim look guilty of exactly what they'd never do. A nurse with no drug abuse history. Plant drugs. Good mother. Make her appear dangerous to children. A strong woman. Put her in a cage where strength doesn't matter. She was right. Logan had twisted all my strengths against me. My pristine record made the arrest even more shocking. My good reputation added to the drama of the fall. My love for my children made the separation that much more painful. "What are you going to do about it?" Tamara asked. "You can either sit here and cry, or you can start fighting. Either way, your kids are growing up without you." "Clock is ticking." I rubbed my face across the rough pillowcase. She was right. The clock was ticking. Logan's position grew stronger with every day I was in here. Another day my children adjusted to life without me. Another day my truth became less convincing. I remembered Sophie refusing to take off her Annie costume and singing about tomorrow, Noah's bedwetting, Uncle Logan's insistence on a nighttime visit, my parents' decision to believe the comfortable lie over the difficult truth. Most of all, I pictured Logan sitting in my home, raising my children, playing the hero in a story where I was the villain. He had utterly won this round, and everyone was congratulating him. Tomorrow was right about something else, too. The clock was ticking for him as well, because addicts don't stay clean when they have everything they want. They stay clean when they're fighting for something. Logan had just won all he had fought for. The counselors in rehab had warned about this, but not in the way my mother expected. They talked about environmental triggers, about the dangers of achieving too much success too quickly, about the fine line between recovery and relapse. I knew my brother. I knew him better than anyone. He wasn't using when he planted those drugs. He'd been overly cautious, too precise. But today, with my house, my children, and my parents' full trust, with no one watching, suspecting, or holding him accountable, the time was ticking for both of us. The only question was, which timer would run out first, his sobriety or my freedom? Logan launched his rehab blog the following Monday. Breaking the Cycle debuted with a photo of him hugging Sophie and Noah on my parents' front porch. The first post detailed his journey from addiction to being a guardian angel. For his nibblings, a term that made me physically nauseous. Within hours, sympathetic responses poured in. Mothers admired his bravery. His story circulated among recovery groups. Someone even started a GoFundMe page to cover his legal fees and protect the children. Tamara saw me constantly refreshing the page on the computer. Finally, she gripped my wrist, forcing me to look into her worn face. Her cousin worked at the impound lot that towed my car. For $200 in commissary, she said he could check the hidden compartment for fingerprints, tool marks, anything the police might have missed. I eagerly agreed, trading my phone privileges for ramen noodles and coffee packs. That week's video visitation shattered what little self-control I had. Logan positioned himself just out of the camera's view, but I could see his hand on Sophie's shoulder. My daughter's gaze darted between the screen and something off camera as she asked why I had brought bad medicine to her play. The words sounded stilted, rehearsed. Noah sat quietly, arms folded, refusing to look at the screen at all. Sophie put her small palm against the monitor after 15 minutes, and I noticed Logan's fingers tighten on her shoulder. My new reality became clear during a meeting with my public defender. She realized that all my jail calls were recorded as routine procedure. Logan's girlfriend, Belle, had made a records request as part of her paralegal studies. Logan now had access to every conversation I'd had about the setup, every strategy conference with my lawyer, every desperate declaration of innocence. My defender suggested we change our approach. What was the point? He knew everything. My cousin responded 3 days later. The secret compartment revealed clear tool marks indicating recent installation, scratches in the metal, fresh drill shavings, although authorities hadn't photographed those details during their initial examination. Multiple investigators had contaminated the scene, rendering any evidence legally suspect. Still, it confirmed the compartment wasn't factory placed. Someone had modified my car. Family court issued new directives that felt like retribution disguised as process. Before any visits could resume, I had to complete parenting classes and substance abuse counseling. The catch: jail only offered these services to sentenced offenders, not pretrial detainees. I was trapped in a bureaucratic nightmare, unable to meet obligations that were impossible to fulfill from my current position. Renee delivered the next blow, risking her marriage by returning. Logan had accessed Sophie's college fund as her temporary guardian. $5,000 was withdrawn for trauma treatment with a friend of Belle's who claimed to be a life coach but had no credentials. Legal, yes. Devastating. Absolutely. I had saved that money since Sophie was born. $20 here, $50 there. Saving for her future, one deposit at a time. The local news ran a feel-good story about rehabilitation and redemption. Logan was at a charity 5K, sporting a personalized shirt with my children's faces and the words "running for their future" across the back. The reporter applauded his commitment to breaking the cycle of addiction. Sophie and Noah cheered my brother on as he crossed the finish line, which I watched on the dayroom screen. Other inmates changed channels, but the damage was done. My third public defender discovered a discrepancy in the prosecutor's case. The drug weight didn't match the trafficking allegations. It was barely over the possession limit. She advised pleading down to simple possession, time served, probation. However, any drug-related conviction meant I would permanently lose my nursing license. It meant Logan remained in custody. It meant admitting to something I didn't do. Mandatory group therapy became a form of torture. Sitting in a circle with true addicts, listening to their stories while I remained innocent. Every time I spoke, the counselor made notes, recording denial and lack of accountability in a file that would follow me through the system. Truth sounded just like falsehoods in that room. Every claim of innocence was just another sign of addiction. Logan took the kids for what he called a closure visit. Sophie wore clothes I didn't recognize, designer labels I'd never buy. Children addressed Belle as Miss Belle with genuine fondness. She'd braided Sophie's hair in a way I'd tried and failed to achieve. Noah showed me his new baseball glove, premium leather that smelled like privilege. They talked about their new routines, Belle's cooking, and trips I'd always promised but couldn't afford. My kids were becoming strangers. Logan made sure I saw every agonizing detail. My father visited alone the next week. He looked shattered, older than his years. He admitted knowing Logan was using again, finding needles in the bathroom and money stolen from his wallet, but Logan was functional, he reasoned. At least the children had stability. He begged me to accept a plea deal, stop fighting what everyone already believes. The man who had punched through walls to defend me now urged me to surrender. Even my commissary account became a battleground. Renee's deposited funds mysteriously disappeared. Logan had listed himself as an approved visitor and family member, giving him access to my account. He had systematically emptied everything, leaving me unable to buy basic hygiene supplies. The jail responded with a shrug. Family members have these rights. The foreclosure letter came as a final insult. Logan was interviewed by local TV at the sale of my house about his efforts to save the family home despite his sister's choices. He stood on my front lawn looking appropriately sad, talking about how addiction devastates families. Behind him, I could see my rose bushes wilting from neglect. Kara, a former colleague, risked her career to visit with disturbing news. Logan was employed by the hospital as a night custodian. He now had access to medical records, controlled substance disposal facilities, and the halls where I had spent my entire career. She'd seen him asking questions about ketamine disposal processes, anesthesia card codes. The ramifications horrified both of us. Tamara revealed that she had filmed Logan buying from her dealer 6 weeks before my arrest. The footage was clear, including his face, voice, and the transaction. However, it also showed Tamara's dealings, making it legally inadmissible. The evidence that could free me would cage her. She offered it anyway, knowing what it could cost her. I couldn't accept that sacrifice. A private investigator hired by Renee's husband discovered something significant. Logan had been calling in prescriptions under my nursing license number. The D database showed unusual patterns of controlled medications prescribed to people I had never treated. Identity theft on top of everything else. But revealing it risked launching a federal investigation that could take years. My children would grow up without me. My uncle visited me after hours, alone. He looked older, his shoulders hunched with guilt. He suspected Logan from the start but couldn't bring himself to investigate his own family. Now, he offered to pay for a private attorney, provided I agreed to leave town after a swift acquittal. To save our reputation, the good apple of the family tree would have to disappear. I agreed. What options did I have? Sophie's teacher called CPS, raising concerns that made my heart pound. During art class, my daughter drew crude pictures of Uncle Logan's secret box in Mummy's car, but the investigator dismissed these as traumatic responses. Children use art to process tough emotions. Adults who thought they knew better dismissed the truth from the mouths of children. The private attorney my uncle hired provided both optimism and harsh reality. Logan's public sympathy campaign had tainted the jury pool. Everyone's heard the story about the brave recovering addict who saved his sister's children. She advised pursuing a bench trial before a judge with discretion over mandated minimums. It meant putting my fate in the hands of one person instead. Of 12, I violated ethical boundaries I never imagined I would. During the literacy program, I befriended the coordinator whose daughter attended Sophie's class. Technically, this violated the no-contact order, but I needed information on my children. Sophie had completely stopped singing. I learned from her. No more tomorrow, nothing. The music had died with her mother's arrest. During transportation for attorney meetings, I recognized the bailiff. Jordan Wells had been Logan's dealer in high school courthouse security for the past decade, clean and by the book. He pulled me aside in the holding room and whispered that Logan had tried to buy from him last month. Logan knew his past. He knew his triggers. He tried to exploit them. Jordan couldn't testify. It would jeopardize his career. But he wanted me to know the truth. The attorney subpoenaed pharmaceutical data, which revealed a damning picture. Logan had filled prescriptions with my D number the week before my arrest, leaving a paper trail of identity theft. However, the prosecutor maintained that this was separate from the drug charges, relevant to motive, but not proof that evidence was planted. The system separated crimes just as it segmented people's lives. Belle's pregnancy announcement amid family court proceedings felt like a deliberate blow. She stood before the judge, palm on her still flat stomach, talking about establishing a stable two-parent home for all the children. Logan wiped away tears, which could have been genuine. The judge extended interim custody, impressed by the heartfelt display of family planning. Sophie's 6th birthday passed me by while I was in jail. Logan live-streamed the celebration at Chuck E. Cheese, something I had never been able to afford. Sophie blew out the candles without looking at the camera. Her face was a mask of forced delight. The other parents grinned and clapped, undoubtedly pleased the drug dealer mother wasn't around to disrupt the festivities. Noah sat in a corner, arms folded, unwilling to participate. The job release program offered cruel hope. I could leave jail at night to clean offices and earn money for my legal bills. The site, my former hospital, the universe's twisted joke, meant I'd be mopping floors in the pediatric wing where I'd once saved lives, scrubbing toilets in the break room where co-workers had thrown me, a baby shower for Noah. My supervisor was one of Sophie's school parents, who regarded me as if I was something scraped off her shoe. She assigned me the harshest jobs. I was made to clean the same spots repeatedly, always finding fault. One night she made me clean the trauma bay where I had once led a code that saved a child's life. The plaque on the wall still acknowledged the nursing staff. My name had been taped over. Kara gave me notes during my shifts, risking everything to keep me informed. Logan had been asking about restricted substance disposal, specifically ketamine and fentanyl. He had befriended nurses on the night shift, exploiting his recovery story to gain sympathy and access. The pattern was clear. He was moving beyond prescriptions. Something more ambitious was being planned. The choice that haunted me happened on a Thursday night. During my shift, I spotted Logan in a restricted area, pocketing expired drugs from the disposal bin. Security cameras would have caught him, but reporting it risked breaking my job release restrictions. Protecting future victims or helping my children a cruel choice. I walked away, hating myself with every step. Noah's counselor submitted a report that should have changed everything. My son insisted repeatedly that Uncle Logan had put something in Mummy's car, offering consistent details about timing and location. Logan, however, presented a therapist's statement from Belle's life coach friend, claiming Noah was experiencing false memories as a result of trauma, a 9-year-old's truth buried beneath professional-sounding lies. My drug test came back positive for a chemical I'd never heard of. The amounts were consistent with recent consumption, not long-term use. Tamara figured it out first. Logan had connections in the correctional kitchen through Belle's network. He had been dosing my food to ensure I'd fail any tests, adding to the evidence of my addiction. Even in jail, I wasn't safe from his reach. The private investigator uncovered Logan's practice run. Logan's expelled college roommate now lived under a bridge in Portland. Unreachable, unverifiable, but it was part of a clear pattern. This wasn't his first frame job, it was just his most sophisticated. However, patterns weren't proof, and the roommate couldn't testify from wherever his addiction had led him. The judge accelerated my trial date, citing public interest and children's well-being. Instead of 2 months, I had 2 weeks to prepare. My attorney scrambled to arrange witnesses, gather evidence, and build a defense against baseless charges. The swiftness that once aided defendants now worked against me. Logan had planned for this, too. During a discussion with my attorney, his true aim became clear. A petition for adoption was found hidden among family court records. If I remained incarcerated for a year, abandonment rules took effect. Logan wasn't just stealing temporary custody. He intended to eliminate me as their mother altogether. The documents had already been drawn up, waiting for time to pass. The twisted logic stemmed from his blog posts. Logan genuinely believed he was protecting my children from the addiction genes, preventing them from being like him or me. In his twisted mind, he convinced himself that destroying me was an act of love, stopping the cycle by breaking me. What's scariest? His tears during court appearances were genuine. I made a desperate decision that crossed every ethical line. We arranged to search Logan's apartment during Sophie's school recital using Tamara's connections. Her crew found his stash. Not just drugs, but more dangerous substances, enough to put him away for years. But we couldn't report it unless we admitted to breaking and entering. Evidence that could have saved me would incriminate me in a different way. To create an alibi for the apartment search, I had to miss my video call with the kids. Sophie waited by the computer for 2 hours. According to the guard who eventually unplugged the unused session, she had prepared a song to sing for me, not tomorrow, but something new from school. I sacrificed potential evidence for undeniable pain. The investigation turned up receipts for the compartment installation in my car. Logan recognized the business owner's name. He was Logan's former dealer, someone who would do anything for the right price. But he refused to testify without immunity. And the prosecutor wasn't interested in deals that complicated their straightforward case. Drug dealer mother was a simpler narrative than sophisticated frame job. Character witnesses became their own battlefield. 3 hospital colleagues agreed to speak on my professional reputation, diligence, and complete lack of a drug background. But the 4th backed out after Logan hinted he was aware of her past prescription discrepancy, which she had only revealed to me during a vulnerable moment. He had weaponized every trust I had ever established. The judge ordered hair follicle tests for all parties involved in the custody issue. The results corroborated what I already knew. I showed no evidence of long-term substance abuse. However, the judge observed that single use was still prohibited, and nice people can make bad decisions. Legal innocence and true innocence weren't the same thing, and I was painfully discovering the difference. My attorney requested a favor from a DEA contact who confirmed that the prescription fraud pattern matched Logan's timeframe exactly. However, testifying would trigger a government investigation that could last years, during which my children would grow up without me. Help that couldn't actually help. The truth couldn't be spoken. The system's brutal math. Off the record, the D contact said something chilling. Logan's fake prescriptions were given to elderly hospice patients who died before anyone noticed. He'd been exploiting dead people's identities for months, effectively making him a serial killer of convenience. But proving it required resources I didn't have and connections I couldn't make while in jail. Sophie had a breakdown during her forensic interview. She said that Uncle Logo had shown her the box in Mummy's car before the play. For a minute, the truth shone through. She instantly recanted, claiming she made it up for attention. The investigator noted both statements but emphasized the latter. Even my daughter's honesty had been turned into a lie. The compartment installer spoke up after his own incarceration for other offenses. He admitted Logan paid cash for the installation a week before my arrest and provided receipts and extensive testimony, but his cooperation came with a price. He had to testify about all his illegal modifications, which implicated dozens of other clients who now wanted me dead for revealing their secrets. I made the most difficult decision of my life. During a strategy discussion with my attorney, I agreed to speak about discovering Logan stealing from the hospital. I knew it violated my work release conditions. Truth had become more important than strategy. If I had to go down, I'd do so with a fight, telling the jury everything I knew. Logan came to jail the night before the trial. He presented a letter of forgiveness and power of attorney documents. He promised to halt the adoption pursuit if I accepted a plea deal, 18 months, out in 12 with good behavior. His hands shook as he pushed the papers into the slot. The security camera clearly showed his dilated pupils and tremor in his fingers. He had started using heavily again, but no one noticed the obvious signs. I looked him in the eyes and spoke honestly to the cameras. I would rather lose my children forever as an innocent woman than keep them through a lie. His face crumpled, not with victory, but with genuine confusion. He never dreamed I wouldn't break, wouldn't fold. He refused to follow the easy path that confirmed his narrative. The prosecutor began the trial by presenting me as a nurse who used her medical skills to steal drugs. Logan sat immediately behind the prosecutor's table, dressed in a suit I recognized from my father's closet. playing the victim advocate role perfectly. The gallery was divided down the middle, my supporters on the left, Logan's army of rehabilitation activists and worried parents on the right. Both of us displayed our war scars. I'd lost 30 pounds. I hadn't noticed any grey in my hair before. Logan had gained weight. He developed a tremor and tried to hide it by clasping his hands. We were destroying each other in slow motion, and everyone seemed to be enjoying it. The installer testified that Logan expressly requested an undetectable chamber to store his girlfriend's birthday present. The falsehood was so obvious that several jurors shifted uneasily, yet obvious lying didn't constitute proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Then came the bailiff, Jordan Wells, whom I recognized. He defied courtroom protocol by standing up in the gallery to speak without being summoned. He couldn't stay silent any longer, he said. Logan had tried to drag him back down after 10 years of sobriety. The judge threatened contempt, but Jordan persisted. Logan was familiar with every dealer in town, as well as their weaknesses and triggers. He was a predator disguised as prey. The judge ordered hair follicle tests for all parties involved in the family court case, including Logan. His stress was obvious in his sweating, squirming, and unexpected need for a restroom break. He was fully aware that the test would reveal everything. However, the criminal trial would conclude before the data were available. Hospital security footage was validated and admitted as evidence. It showed Logan entering forbidden locations throughout my shifts, creating opportunities for prescription theft. The prosecutor agreed that his evidence was circumstantial but convincing. Patterns formed like a picture from scattered pixels. Access, opportunity, purpose, and method all contributed to Logan's testimony. He took the stand and broke down entirely, confessing to the prescription theft. However, he swore he had never planted any chemicals. His cries appeared sincere as he spoke about attempting to save me from myself. We are safeguarding the children from our family curse. He was an addict, but not a monster, he claimed. I almost believed him. During jury deliberation, the prosecutor made one final offer: drop all charges if I agreed to supervised visitation exclusively. No admission of guilt, but acceptance of the consequences. My attorney urged me to take it. Juries were unpredictable, and we had provided reasonable doubt, but not assurance. I refused. My children deserved a mother who fought for the truth until the very end. Either I'd walk out feeling vindicated, or I'd go to prison knowing I had never compromised. The jury returned after a 2-hour deliberation. The verdict was split, just as my life had been. Not guilty of trafficking. The evidence was too flimsy. The compartment seemed strange. But guilty of possession, since the narcotics were in my car, and constructive possession constituted possession. Time served, plus 2 years probation, a partial win that felt like defeat. The family court proceeded promptly. Logan's custody was revoked after he failed a drug test and admitted prescription stealing. But the kids went to my parents, not me. The judge referred to my criminal record, my need to rebuild, and the children's need for stability. No one won. Cleanly, I moved in with Renee, whose husband abandoned her for supporting me. We rebuilt together, 2 women whose devotion to the truth had cost them everything. My nursing license was suspended pending review, which could take years. I found employment as a medical clerk, processing paperwork where I had previously saved. Liv-supervised Sunday visits became my lifeline. Sophie spoke again, but shuddered at sirens. Noah refused to visit Logan at all, using wrath as armor. My mother, now in a wheelchair after a stroke, continued to protect Logan from her assisted living home. We were all so proud of our family tree, but it was nothing more than broken branches. 6 months later, I sat in another courtroom for the final custody proceeding. Logan was back in rehab, this time by court order. His partner Belle had left him when the baby tested positive for drugs at birth. The family court judge evaluated everything: my compliance, employment, stability, clean drug testing, and completed parenting classes. I have dual custody with my parents. Transitions are supervised. Drug testing for all parties. Sophie's college fund was returned through a court judgment. It wasn't the life I had planned before, but it was something. Logan would be granted supervised visits once he completed therapy again. Every day on my way to work, I passed my foreclosed house. New family, new rose bushes. There's new life inside those walls. Sometimes I parked across the street, remembering birthday parties and bedtime stories, Christmas mornings and homework struggles. The GPS still called it home. Sophie once asked me if I hated Uncle Logan. I told her the truth. I despised what he did, but I couldn't hate him. He was unwell in ways that medicine couldn't cure, broken in areas where love couldn't go. We were all trying to survive our family, curse in our own unique ways. I last saw him at the courthouse, signing documents to garnish his wages for child support. He appeared smaller, deflated, like a balloon slowly losing air. He asked if I thought he would ever get better. I didn't have an answer. Some cycles break you before you can break them. But every Sunday, I picked up my children during our allotted time. We visited parks, museums, and other places that didn't remind us of anything we'd experienced before. Sophie started singing, again not tomorrow, but new songs, happy ones. Noah entered the minor league with a used glove that smelled of optimism, not privilege.